And I watched the documentary, and 30 minutes in, I see this gray alien that's tan, a gray alien that has round eyes instead of almond eyes. I see the mouth opening and closing, foam, black foam coming from it. It's very casual. The medics are not in pressurized suits. You've got two military people in the foreground that only show their shoulders. I'm like, this is the worst hoax on the planet, or this is like a run-of-the-mill film of an alien interview.
Welcome back. I am here with the illustrious one, Johnny Stewart, or John. We'll go with Jon Stewart, obviously, but just bringing back a blast from the past that folks probably haven't heard from a long time. All right, so John, I think the primary purpose of this interview is we're going to focus obviously on the video. Okay, so why don't you just very, very quickly tell folks about your background and all that stuff?
Yeah, born and raised in Chicago, played high school, college, semi-pro football. It was in my freshman year at Memphis State, now called the University of Memphis, where I met a promoter who worked for Jerry Lawler, and they saw that I was serious enough, and I broke into the wrestling business in Memphis with Jerry Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett's dad and stuff, and Jeff Jarrett. We both basically started at the same time and did that while through college. Performed for the AWA from 88 to 91 on ESPN, and got into the business world in the automobile industry. I ran my family automobile dealership until I semi-retired 2 years ago. Still own the property and whatnot, and we took a lease buyout on our property. So fortunate enough to semi-retire at 55. And since 2019, have been doing a comprehensive, that means everything, self-funded, that means my money, investigation into the truth, not whether it's real or not, to the truth about the 1997 Area 51 alien interview smuggled out by a man who called himself Victor, and part and parcel, and to also find simply who Victor was. A Hollywood actor, a scientist, a disgruntled cameraman at S4 or Area 51. And 2 days ago, I finally, after many mistakes and false starts, I finally found the real Victor, called him up at his home, and it's been a whirlwind 48 hours, I can tell you that.
I saw that on Twitter just right before this interview that you had kind of gotten a hold of him. Was he surprised that you found him?
No, and he was actually very nice. We actually laughed because when he picked up, because he was a dickhead, if I can swear, on both interviews. I mean, very nervous, very pressured, an FBI expert in lie deception, because we've had 3 people from the Reed School of Lie Deception analyze Victor's verbiage, forensically analyze his words, who all said he was a scientist of some sort and that he was pedantic, which meant very precise, not wavering, not malleable. It's my way or the highway. He comes across that in all 3 of his interviews that he did. And he was not that way on the phone with me. We actually laughed because when he picked up the phone, he said, "Hello, Jon Stewart." I went, "Were you expecting my call? How do you know it's my name?" And he said, "It's called caller ID." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's married and wants to talk to me later in the week during normal business hours, because I call him very late at night.
When the United States and China clash, the world will never be the same, especially when forces beyond reality threaten to intervene. What if the United States went to war with the People's Republic of China? How would these rivals fight for supremacy on land, sea, air, and across the stochastic streams of time? What wonder weapons would be unleashed? What horrors would emerge from the irradiated sludge of the South China Sea? What heroes would rise and forever change the course of history? Tread into the deepest and darkest dimensions of the multiverse, gaze through a kaleidoscope of fractured realities, and bear witness to the disturbing visions of World War III from today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War, China. Available now from Bain Books at bain.com.
Now, when is the official
Crazy.
unveil? Like, is he?
Well, I'm not going to say his name until the documentary. Folks, I'm so financially screwed with this investigation that now having his name, his photo matched to the photo from the documentary, I've given his name to my lawyer, to my agent, Sean West, to Jack Connors from Cosmic Road, who's become a trusted friend of mine, so we can timestamp it, so any other troll can't say a year from now, oh, I had that name as Victor, and, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I got there first. I'm proud to say that. So this is hopefully going to move the needle with the network that is holding this documentary, and hopefully going to get them to greenlight it so we can get this documentary out. But I'm not giving that name up for anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to push you on that because you
I know
spent a lot of money on the documentary.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the documentary, where do you expect it to appear and when and all that good stuff?
I'm not going to say that because I have so many jealous trolls that want nothing but my destruction and to get there first. So, obviously going to be on a streaming platform, we think. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
What's driving all that, by the way? Like, why are people taking shots? And
I was warned in 2019 by an Emmy award-winning producer named Adam Wilkenfeld, who said to me prophetically, dude, if you could prove it was fake, I could put this on tomorrow. You want to tell Hollywood you think it's real? This is going to be tough. Wow. Are his words prophetic? Hollywood, the media, the news media, they don't want to scare the crap out of people. They don't want people to panic. They want you just interested enough to watch the news, to keep watching the streaming platform, but not scared enough where you won't stop buying stock on the stock market, you won't stop shopping, and you won't stop spending money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
And this is going to make people panic. And that's tough to solve.
Then there are other reasons, too, that they...
Well, of course. But I'll tell you, the president of unscripted television with this network did the... I'm imitating him. Did the...
Right.
Wait, you're going to say that it's real? And he did the... And I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah.
But it's still there, still on his desk. And now the official name of Victor is got to move the needle. And if it doesn't, we're going somewhere else as quick as we can. So,
yeah, by the way, Jack Connor,
again,
I know Jack. He's good people.
Oh, he's the best. He's the best. And he has become a complete trusted ally in the UFO community to me. And I just want to say something else, and I'm forgetting because I have COVID brain, that you have to understand what the UFO community has to understand is I wasn't battling just the U.S. government. I was battling the media who ignored me, the UFO world that didn't believe me, Hollywood that was terrified of me, and the United States government that I have documented did whatever they could to destroy me. And I've documented it. So this wasn't, oh, I'm trying to get on TV. This was a war with 4 campaigns, 4 theaters, 4 fronts that I had to fight for the past 5 years. And I never expected that to happen. And I expected the UFO community to embrace me with open arms when I came to them with, I'm an idiot. I don't know much. I need your help. And I'm not sure of what the truth is. I thought people would be like, oh, this guy is a big teddy bear that we're going to help. A majority of the UFO community did the opposite. Vitriol, rhetoric, hyperbolic statements, trolling my family, stealing my Facebook page for Hunting Victor, trolling every podcast that I went on. I cannot believe the vitriol that came from some members of the UFO community, and I'm calling them out now that, well, karma's going to be a real bitch.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Have you ever looked into some of those trolls? In terms
of course I have. Of course I have. Yeah, I know exactly who they are and what they are. And one of the trolls has the same theatrical agent that I have. It's like, you think that I'm immune to people that, because I have swag, because I know people in the government, because I know people in Hollywood, that I'm immune? I'm not immune. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable what has happened to me. I never expected it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a pissy little bitch, but I never expected it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it, though. Like, if you look at some of the commonalities of some of those individuals, some of them are just legitimately upset, but many of them have backgrounds where there's something in those backgrounds that's compromisable. So as an example, a lot of them are ex-cons, and those are easier for people to manage, right? Not people, but
so true, Sean.
Within the intelligence community to manage.
So true. I was vetted. I ran for Congress in what the New York Times, and I'm not getting off on a tangent. Why I went public.
You were Kellyanne Conway's first client, right?
I was her very first client in '97. Yeah. Thank you that's a good interview. You did your background check.
I did but I was John. I'm good at faking it. I did I actually probably unprepared for this, but I just remember little details.
That was a good call. Yeah. I ran for Congress. This is when John McCain hollered at me about the DNI abbreviation. I ran for Congress in what the New York Times called the dirtiest congressional campaign in United States history. We were like one step away from committing murder. I mean, it should have been on Dateline. I'm not lying to you. And I'm just saying, like, I'm not being hyperbolic. It was called the dirtiest.
No, every single Republican presidential candidate has literally been the worst in humans. And they said that about, like, Mitt Romney. So it's, I get it. I get it.
So I'm just saying I was vetted so hard back then that I have nothing to hide other than coming to the UFO community hat in hand, telling people I didn't know much. I mean, I'm not very smart, but Andy Dufresne finally broke out of Shawshank. Sean, I will end with this. I don't ever want to not be credited with crediting the great people on the internet who literally moved the needle, helped me move the needle on this investigation. And one being the person that took Victor's photograph still from the original documentary. And I don't know how he did it, but lightened it to the fact where I then could pay to have it completely lightened where you could see a total facial recognition. I never would have been where I was if it wasn't for that guy. I don't ever remember who it was. So people on the internet, you other ufologists, other interested party, I am telling you, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Now, let's go all the way back. Okay. So how did you come in possession of this film? Just, I know we're rehashing a bunch of things, but for my audience, I just want to establish a baseline and all that.
1997, I'm living downtown Chicago, dating this sexy blonde woman who's been my wife of 25 years. And we hear...
My wife's blonde, too. We have it sounds like we have a similar type.
I'm a sucker for you. Yeah, thank you. And we hear this advertisement on this new network, the UPN network, Alien Interview. And I'm like, wow, but I'm thinking, like, is this going to be like a weird looking humanoid at the Pentagon on closed circuit, getting a job interview with a general? I didn't know. And I watched the documentary, and 30 minutes in, I see this gray alien that's tan, a gray alien that has round eyes instead of almond eye. I see the mouth opening and closing, black foam coming from it. It's very casual. The medics are not in pressurized suits. You've got two military people in the foreground that only show their shoulders. I'm like, this is the worst hoax on the planet, or this is like a run-of-the-mill film of an alien interview. One of many, as Victor said.
Right, it's like casual.
And I come to find out that it was
so often.
Yeah, right, that it's done so often, and I do the pantomime of, the cameraman with a styrofoam cup of coffee. All right, is everybody in the room? Okay. All right, bring in the alien, Hey, Bob, you going to go to that one place in Vegas tonight for a call? Oh, great, yeah. Oh, he's there. Okay, ready? We're rolling. Go ahead. And I've been told that's basically what happened. This was this has been happening since the late 40s. So this was a run-of-the-mill interview. And this section that we saw was conducted by the Department of Naval Intelligence. And it's what you see, casualness. And, I have the widow of the doctor to the being's right, identify him. I have the stepdaughter identifying him. I have all the names of the men in the room. I have the picture of the telepath that was there. And now I have contact with Victor. And I have an ID of Victor with his photo. I have his name. It totally all makes sense, as it will to everyone, of who he was, why he did it. And I have contact with Victor. So he wasn't a Hollywood actor. So I'm asking the UFO community, to the skeptics, so now what? Because, Sean, everyone told me, prove who Victor is, you prove the video. If you prove he's an actor, we know it's probably a hoax. If you prove he has any relation to the government or the military, then we have to ask ourselves, what is a guy who was in the military or the government doing with a hoax alien interview film? Why? So it's going to get interesting.
I can tell you what comes next. I can tell you what their next move is if you want to know.
Well, you'll see an article on me in the paper like they did David Grush.
Well,
former governor for candidate. Yeah. Got drunk at a fraternity party in 1986. Tore up Memphis State.
What they'll probably come out with is they'll say that, they'll do like a Bob Lazar. All of his records will disappear from whatever institutions that he came from.
Right.
That'll be one tactic that they use, where they just kind of burn him.
Right.
The other tactic they might use is they might say, oh, well, yeah, of course he's connected to the government. That was an op to confuse the Soviet Union. Well, I guess it was Russia by that point.
Right.
Russia and China
That's right.
Throw us off the...
You're a smart guy.
With Grush, well, have you looked at my background a little bit? I'm not here to talk about myself, but just check it out after the interview, and you'll see why I have some. I've never been in intelligence, but I have connections in that community. The other, so it just could be something that
folks,
say, well,
listen to this guy. What he's telling you is going to happen. You are exactly right, which is why we have been clicking, copying all of Victor's whatever bio and information we can get on him. We have our team, and I don't mean like I've got 30 people, but there's 3 or 4 people that are literally doing everything we can to, I'm just going to say, photocopy as much as we possibly can. So I'll leave it at that.
I think what won't happen, though, is I don't think you'll have like I got to try to frame this in a way that it is YouTube friendly. I don't even know if I could use that name. There was someone who was in prison and hanged himself. Okay. That I don't think will happen in this scenario, because it would only draw more attention.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'll see that with. I think you're fine. You're two in the open, but I think for him, I think he's fine too.
And Sean, can I say something? Yeah. Can I say something? Because I know they listen to almost every podcast. I'm not saying mine that I appear on. I am telling people, several intelligence people have told me, oh, we listen to everything. We have all lackeys taking notes. And, so let me say this. For the 39th time, I stopped the closure of the North Chicago VA in 1999, where not only did they keep it open for thousands of Chicago and North Chicago veterans, but then the $130 million John Lovell Medical Center was also built. I was one of 3 progenitors in 99 that found out about the closure when I ran for Congress with Mark Kirk and stopped it. All of my family, my father, have been in the military. I have more respect for government and military. I wanted to be part of the government when I ran for office. And they let this sneak out. Their lax or their rules or their security let this film sneak out and be out for 27 years. I'm just coming along to tell you, oh, this is who Victor is. And so I think my level of respect to the military and the government, without ever thumbing on my nose, with dropping all of my FOIAs, all of my appeals to the NSA, the DOD. Like I said, I basically just told DIA, you win, I'm done, don't worry about it. I don't see where there's any heat on me. All I'm doing is finding who Victor is. And I'm not saying that like, oh God, I'm just saying that I have shown incredible respect, more than I should have, for the government who did incursions on my phone, but I still respect the government. That's just bred into me. I can't not do that. And the military, are you willing to go into a foxhole into Crete With an M16, I'm not. So be mindful of that when you see somebody in uniform or have a hat on that they're a veteran. And I think it's my respect for all of that consistently that I'm just, I don't know what you call it, non gratis. It's like, I know it's just leave the guy alone. He's not going to.
Yeah, John, I'm a former cavalry officer. Like
awesome.
It's fine. The other thing too is we don't know why they're keeping this a secret, right? It could be some unspeakable horror that we all don't know. So I keep that in mind when I talk about this stuff, because maybe they're trying to hide something that is a legitimate thing to hide.
Sean, if I can give you your agreement, let me pile on that to illuminate your viewers and you. I've had 2 instructions from 2 different intelligence people that have helped me. I've had 5 total. I have said 4, and then I added another one. I've had 5 total for a couple of years, and they've been wonderful to me. They've given me 2 instructions. Don't talk about the categories of aliens, and don't talk about any future event, and you'll be fine. And I have it, and I won't. And it's showing them that respect. Even though many people talk about it, they asked me, Sean, if this makes sense to you, they asked me not to do it. And I don't think it was anything but, can we trust this guy? Does he follow instructions? And I have.
Yeah, and the other technique that they'll typically do, and I think they did with Bob Lazar, right, where they'll provide you with a bunch of background materials, but there'll be something very specifically wrong about a very specific detail, and only he saw it, or only a certain subset of people saw it, and then if they leak that specific information, they can trace the leak back to the person that they that did that.
Yeah. So, what is it called? David Grush says, knowing your tail.
Yeah. So, in terms of that, so when did Victor approach you, or how did that happen? What was
Victor didn't, and I'm not going to tell you how we found it. I hired another investigator again, Jon Stewart, the principal investigator, giving credit to someone else who said, I've got something for you. And when I saw it, I went, I did a Three's Company spit take. I spit my iced tea across the room. I'm like, holy shit, it's Victor, because I've seen his face. And I'm like, holy crap, it's Victor. And then I'm just going to say, obviously then found his name, obviously then got his contact information, found out he was alive, and called him up at home on Monday night. That's all I'll say.
Okay. So, now you mentioned the Department of Naval Intelligence, and that's
correct.
Only the second time I've heard that. The first time I've heard that was with Bob Lazar. Now, the Navy does have an Office of Naval Intelligence.
Right. Well, let me help you out here.
Yeah.
So they all said the Department of Naval Intelligence doesn't exist. You can't Google it. It isn't in the directory. So Bob Lazar must be a hoax. The DNI is on the bottom of this alien interview. Victor says it was the Department of Naval Intelligence's turn, because there was a conga line of intelligence groups waiting to interview this being. Fact. Waiting outside the door like a cattle call in Hollywood. And I have proven without a doubt the department, not office of, the Department of Naval Intelligence exists, and it is buried, and it's a buried agency inside the Office of Naval Intelligence. You won't see a shingle. It's not on a directory. Nothing. You won't find it anywhere. How do I know this? A naval aviator who's now a professor and a teacher, who became a friend of mine, I asked him, what is the Department of Naval Intelligence? And I said, I want to be specific, not the office. And he texts back, I know what you're going to I know. DNI. It's real. I'm like, what? He said, yes. He said, it's an office agency buried within the Office of Naval Intelligence, the Department of Navy. I said, how do you know that? And he said, quote, because they tried to recruit me before I went to Naval Aviator School in Pensacola, but I wanted to be an aviator, not a spook. It's where the spooks for the Navy hide out. This is a naval aviator. You know, why would you trust him? We only trusted him with a $40 million plane. Naval aviator who was approached by the DNI. John McCain in 1999. I'm on a bus tour. Happy-go-lucky John McCain. Until I asked him, is the Department of Naval Intelligence real? Sean, he looked at me with this aggressive look and said, you don't need to know anything about that, and took off to the bus, and he never talked to me for the rest of the weekend. Number 3, we see the Department of Naval Intelligence on a security conference in Toronto, Canada, on a brochure. Again, one of the great internet people sent it to me, one of these awesome investigators. And number 4, this is going to sound like the start of a joke, a former director-level person for the CIA now owns and operates a brewery with his wife. This is not the start of a funny joke. And I got him at the bar. My cousins introduced me to him and caught him off guard and said, can I ask you a question? And he had his hands in a preacher style and he was looking down. I said, is the Department of Naval Intelligence real? And I want to be clear. I'm not talking about the Office of Naval Intelligence, the Department of Naval Intelligence. And he looked up and he said, yeah, it is real. And he got up and he went into his office for 15 minutes. My cousin's like, is this guy, going to drop the dime on you? Is he going to kill himself? I mean, it was a really bizarre moment in my thing. So I have four people, okay, that have told me Bob Lazar and Victor are not lying. The Department of Naval Intelligence exists. So I'm asking you, Sean, I'm asking the ardent skeptics, how could a screenwriter, a director and producer in 1996 have the ball and the coincidental luck to engrave DNI on the bottom of this film, knowing that no one could find out if the Department of Naval Intelligence is real? Why would you do that? And why would you spend the money to do digital overlay graphic, which is what they had to do when they got the film, when they got that video? It's very costly and very expensive. As a cameraman friend of mine who just died of cancer said, John, the only people in the 80s and 90s that did digital overlay graphics were the government and news teams because it was so expensive. So really, a screenwriter in Santa Monica took a gamble and put Department of Naval Intelligence on the film? I was born at night, but it wasn't last night,
Anything strange happened to you? I mean, I know that I think the answer is yes, but I want to kind of go into the what.
Sure.
So when you started talking more about this video, when did that happen? And then what? Because I think the most compelling thing about your story is not the video itself, because when I look at it, I'm like, oh, it looks like, remember Showbiz Pizza, right? With those animatronic, things. Sure. It kind of looks like that to me, but that's not to say that it's not real, right? Like, I'm not an expert on these things. So I think the most compelling part about your story is the way that the powers that be reacted to you talking about
correct.
Video. I think that's
a smart man. Is. Yes, sir. Yeah, again, if this is fake, if everything I've been told and seen is fake, if all of these military intelligence whistleblowers who have never been caught in a lie by me or my team, if they're all fake, then why did the government, and I know it's the government, steal my emails on 3 occasions? And do you know who told me this? The Apple Corporation. They did it 3 times. Not only that, my tile apps get rearranged. I'll go to send an email and I'll see my screen scroll up uncontrollably. I sent a text to my wife and all I saw was a milky white circle, a screen with everything blurred except the last text. And the director of forensic audit at Apple told the person, her name was Arsh, I've got my case number. I heard him tell him, we have never seen that before, only with photos, never with the text. He is the first one we have ever seen that with, the milky white blurriness. And they also told me there's no way someone can get into your phone. And they left it at that until a computer hacker in Chicago, a Russian, and I'm saying that affectionately, a Russian from Russia, he's now a computer guy in Chicago. I call him my hacker. He said, my friend, there's only 2 G's that could have gotten into your phone. God, and you know who the other G is, the government. And then anonymously, finally, I was sent an email that said it was the NSA. They had to get a warrant to do it. The program is called Stingray Centipede, and that's what they use. It's a step-down computer program for people that they don't think are terrorists, or it's more used for counterintelligence. But I was told they had to go in front of someone, a FISA court or whatever, to get a warrant to monitor my phone. And I will tell people that want to roll their eye that you're right. I talk to politicians. I have been on wiretap with a Chicago neighborhood low-level mafia guy, and you get the letter from the FBI, who wanted to buy a car from us, but you still get the letter. You were on a wiretap, and, we're sorry and whatnot. And so who knows? But, I find it strange that 3 times my emails were swiped, never to come back. But they didn't swipe the sent email, so I still can have some of the chain of emails. I can recover some of them if I go back in my sent email. The intelligence person that I went to after I got this anonymous email, he said, they want to see what you know. If you're touching on anything that's really going to interfere with any kind of intelligence or any kind of program that they're doing. And that was it. And then I wrote the NSA. I wrote Cheryl Cross Washington of the DIA, who handles all the FOIA. I wrote the DOD, and my lawyer wrote them and said, we're done. He's out. You'll never hear from Jon Stewart again. We wrote the NAISC and told them, we're not going to do a documentary with your agent. Rip up the questionnaires. We're stopping all appeals. I told Congressman Brad Schneider, his aide, who was helping me with my NSA appeal of, are you monitoring me? I told him, forget it. We're done. And once I did that, magically, nothing ever happened again. So you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? Why?
I have an answer, maybe. So if it was a counterintelligence operation, was anybody that you were talking to, were they potential whistleblowers from the government?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why.
Absolutely. Right. And again, Sean, I want you to back me up on this because I can tell you're emotionally intelligent. Folks, if you think that my ego is taking over, that I'm a wanted man and I'm a spy in the government, I am the last. I'm George Costanza of the UFO world. And Sean, you're right. I think they were monitoring somebody else that I talked to, and they went, who in the it's this, bombastic bald guy from Chicago. What is he doing? And I did send, sorry, I don't mean to scream. I did send the DIA a documentation number about a very hyperbolic explosive document. I know that set off alarm bells. I did send an agent of the NAISC, National Air and Space Center, at Wright Pat, 20 questions that were explosive. Yes, I'm sure that set off alarm bells. But yeah, I think it's very possible that somebody I was talking to was being monitored, and somebody went, I think the NSA, oh, let's take a look at this guy, me, and see what he's talking about.
Yeah, and the NSA is true because the NSA has the monitors signal intelligence. That's what they.
That's correct.
That's
correct. That's what I've been told. Yeah.
And what were, at least with those 3 whistleblowers? Well, I don't know if it's 3 or 1, 3 different.
Five military intelligence people that have been helping me or have helped me.
And what sorts of topics did they touch on in those specific emails that may have triggered this?
What am I, in an interrogation? Okay. They really kept it to my interview, how they can help me to find out who Victor was. But we also touched on Project Aquarius. There's the alarm bell. Project Aquarius, is S4 real? And I found out that S4 is real, but the building it's under is called S2 Alpha. I have the schedules of the security people. I have the schedule of them in the past, the swing shifts, how they make food out there.
Oh yeah, that's bad. That's bad. Oh, that's bad juju, man. That's of course they like started monitoring food again. Like that's like.
I have the shifts of people at Papoose Lake. So
now I guarantee. Look, after that was out there, I guarantee they changed it, and if they didn't, they're utterly incompetent. But they definitely changed those shift schedules. I even had a master sergeant. I'm not going to say his name. I have said his name before. Who I'm not even counting in as one of my intelligence people. He wrote me a 3-page email. Here's how you order a clock. If you're at Papoose, S4, S2,
Here's how you do this. Here's how you get security in. So can I tell you the bombshell just in case I forget?
Yeah.
And he said, so on the bottom next to DNI, another bizarre coincidence, the director producer, if it's hoaxed, put 27. And I asked an intelligence person, what's 27? I'm told it's Yankee White, anybody that has contact with POTUS, President of the United States. And in that room, one of the names on that list had direct contact, was a liaison for intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I have proven that he's been in the Oval Office more than one time. So how did a 20-something-year-old screenwriter, director, producer from Reseda, California, I'm making that up, have the know-it-all to put 27 on this film, which tells anyone watching this film, Sean, if you can back up what I'm saying, if you don't have the 27 or above clearance, shut this thing off and leave the room. If you don't have Yankee White clearance, you can't watch this. This is how the audiovisual documentation of the government works. They notify you. It's a voiceover on the film of saying, if you don't have the cosmic clearance or higher, you must now leave the room, And so how in the hell, now I'm the first one to bring 27 Yankee White to the public. How did somebody know about it in 96 to put it on that film and know that 30 years later, I'd get a list of men and one of the men had the 27 Yankee clearance and he dealt with President George Bush the first? It's been a shocking coincidence.
Okay. So they were monitoring your emails.
Yes.
They were remoting into your machine, essentially,
yes.
kind of moving things. By the way, that's not the first time I heard that. There's a filmmaker that I just interviewed. Why am I blanking on his name? But he produced a
James Fox.
No, not Fox? James Fox. I haven't interviewed him yet, though I'd love to. But he did the USO's like recent.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so he had like walked out of a room, went back in, and saw like a mouse moving around his laptop.
Folks, ask my wife and daughters. I have college-age daughters. I call them Kim and Khloe Kardashian. That's an inside joke because they spend so much money. But 3 times you'll walk by my computer desk in our addition, and the computer is downloading itself. It's flipping in the screen. Folks, I'm not the only one that witnessed this. I'll tell you the most bizarre thing. As I'm bringing my wife and 2 daughters into the addition to show them Daddy's Alien film 4 years ago, as my daughter, and I don't want to parse my words, and I want people to listen to me. As my youngest daughter is walking down the stairs, she gets a Snapchat, which nobody uses Snapchat anymore, a Snapchat message, instant message from someone she is not friends with and someone that is not following her or vice versa. As my daughter is walking down the stairs to see Daddy's Alien interview film, the Snapchat anonymous or not anonymous, the Snapchat person asks her, "Do you really believe in aliens?" Fact. 4 witnesses. Fact. So when you think I'm like a bombastic boob and paranoid, folks, I should be way more paranoid than I am. But you couple all of this together. And Sean, I think you need to interview this guy. His name is Chad Kalett. He is one of the nicest guys in ufology and paranormal circles. He's got the documentary Mr. No Face, where he believes he documented and he filmed a gray alien at a abandoned facility, I believe in Australia.
Is that famous picture of that gray alien kind of looking up? Whitley Strieber said it's real. It's not
this is just a peekaboo alien on like a second and a half of video. Folks, he is the first person on the first day when I said, I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to tell you what he told. Chad Kalett. Look him up. My buddy. But didn't know him back then. John, I was investigating the paranormal for 20 years without one incident of weirdness in my life, in my home, you name it. The week I started investigating gray aliens, my life went electronically haywire. Is he lying, folks? Because that's what happened to my life. Here is a stranger warning me prophetically that, get ready, pal, buckle up. And he was 100%, he was 1,000% right what happened to me. And it's scary. It's weird. You get numb to it. And let me say one more thing, and I'll shut up, and I'm sorry for going on and on. Whatever you think of his documentary, Bart Sibrel of the Moon Hoax documentary, forget the astronaut being pulled up miraculously off the ground, which looks like puppet strings. I'm just giving him credit. But I called him one day because I interviewed him, but I called him on another day. I'm like, Bart, these mother effers, they took my emails. I'm screaming at my wife on the phone, and I missed my exit off the rim, and he's laughing. And he's got this great infectious laugh. And he's like, don't you get it? And Bart has claimed that he was abducted by the CIA for 3 hours, interrogated, you name it. Okay. Whether you believe him or not. He said it's working. I'm like, what's working? He's like, what do you think? They're going to kill you? You think they're going to, kill your dog? You think they're going to, break into your house? No. They're going to make you batshit crazy. And are they doing it? And Sean, I'm looking you straight in the eye. I really sat back in my car and I went, oh my God, this guy is right. They're making me batshit crazy. And I had to mentally, press the reset button. And I did that day. And my life got better. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Everyone says, in the car business that I'm in still, you're different. You're more calm. You're not this hurricane that blows through and causes destruction, and he's gone in 2 seconds. And I had to mentally reset myself because I was not going to let the United States government, make me batshit crazy.
Well, they're going to have to adapt their tactics because right now, the crazier they seem to make somebody look, it actually means they're more credible because that means that the more flack they're receiving, the closer they are. That means they're
right
on target.
That's right. You got it, Sean.
In fact, I'm not going to repeat any of it here because I don't want to lose my channel, but I recently got a channel warning once because I said something unrelated to this topic whatsoever, but YouTube pulled my video. And all that told me is that's probably the truth, right?
Yeah.
That's the truth. So again, I'm not going to talk any more about that.
Sean, can I say one more thing? I had someone in the entertainment industry who I consider a friend because he's just been so honest and raw with me, and he has nothing to do with this investigation. He said, John, I love you like a brother, but I want to prepare you. And I'm like, oh God, what is he going to tell me? He said, do not be surprised if somebody gives you a shitload of money for this and pats you on the back and says, oh, this is going to be in the fall lineup, and you never, ever, ever see the documentary.
Yeah.
Which is why my agent's a little smarter, and in any potential contract, we're going to have a clause, and I want to tell people this so in case they ever put their videos anywhere that, and I won't sign the deal if I can't do this, that they don't have license over my experience with this. Sean, are you catching that? Meaning, I can go ahead
write a documentary about the documentary.
Exactly. I can sit there at a table like a doofus and talk for an hour and a half about my experience. I can go around the college lecture tour, talk about my experience. You want to have my footage, everything in the can and stuff we filmed or will film, that's fine. You want to bury it, that's fine. But you're not going to have capture of my experience.
Yeah, don't sign away your life rights.
No.
Right. Yeah. So this is a weird question. I don't know if you've ever been asked this one yet. When you were warned about your life getting weird, was that only in reference to the government, or was it in reference to the phenomenon, or both?
That's really interesting. And I'm going to be brutally honest. No one has ever warned me about alien contact or having any bizarreness with any beings or anything dimensional, interdimensional. I will tell you that I did have my first UFO encounter, but it was just it was just a globe, a massive chrome circular globe ball in the air about 3,500 feet outside of Blue Diamond, Arizona, which is in Nevada, which is a hot spot. I did make a MUFON report, and it just snapped off. It switched off. It didn't fizzle. It didn't move back and forth. It sat there very high in the air. I thought it was an American Airlines nose cone because it was chrome. And my wife and my sister-in-law, the two Italian yentas, were in the front seat. And I'm with my eyes open going, what the? And I looked back and it was clicked off. And I made a MUFON report. So, and that was after we saw the petroglyphs by the Native American Indian. So if you want to consider that any kind of alien weirdness, you could. But no, again, it's all been the government. It's not been anything else. And, I've had my trolls, of course, from the skeptics in the UFO community and, to deal with them. But other than that, there's been no extraterrestrial, alien, interdimensional weirdness, paranormal weirdness in my life. Thank God.
Yeah. Anybody who covers this topic, whether it's subtle or in your face, things start to happen a little weird. So now, that being said, that doesn't mean that the government's not doing some of this stuff, because they do possess some of the technology, right? There's a technology that's been around for a very long time. It's called V2K, voice to skull. And by manipulating sound waves and things like that, they can literally put voices in your head and all sorts of stuff. And it's not.
Well, it's interesting that you said that.
The US has, right? It's something that everybody has. It's not.
Because I told everyone, and this is the only time, and you're triggering me right now. So God bless you. But the only time, but I've said
most people don't say God bless you when they say you're triggering me, but
I'm a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I'm a follower of the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Very big distinction. I was a Christian, a Catholic, I mean. And I've said this a million times. How it all started with me investigating the monitor was I got home early, about 4 hours earlier than usual. And I didn't have a voice. I never said it was a voice, but I had this feeling, this subconscious notion that was like pulling at me going, this video has been bothering you all week. Will you just go find and prove something that's fake about it so you can move on with your life? Was that somebody putting something? I don't think so, but I'm open to anything. And that's the only time that I've ever had something. And it's funny because that did jumpstart my entire investigation. This voice in my head that we all have. It's normal. Right. I have a degree in psychology. It's your subconscious. It's your id or your ego telling, and it was telling me, you got some time. You're in your car in the driveway. Go find something out about this video to prove it's fake and move on with your life. And so that was the only time, but who knows why that could have happened.
It's funny you mentioned that. So this is they call them synchronicities. I have this stuff so routinely, I don't even completely discount it. So you just mentioned, so I have a video this video will come out later in June, but today there's a video that I have coming out this afternoon after we talk that is an interview with a psychoanalyst. His name is Jerry Marzinski, and he was a psychoanalyst at mental institutions and prisons. And he dealt primarily with paranoid schizophrenics. And again, I'm going to be very careful here because it hasn't aired yet, and God knows if YouTube will give me a strike for even mentioning it. But the way it's traditionally treated is just by drugging. The pharmaceutical industry just drugs them, and it's deemed uncurable, etc. So that's one side. He started talking to these people, and he's like, well, let's talk to these voices. And what do they say? And it turned out that they were consistent in terms of they weren't random. And without going too much into it, some of the things that we hear are not our own thoughts. Okay, some of these thoughts come from elsewhere. Now, whether or not they come from, some government program or the ether or some whatever, I'm not here to opine on. But he was able to, he's a method that cures that particular malady for people, which, according to normal medical science, is incurable. So anyway, without getting into it, the fact that you said, we're talking about voices and things like that, there's something to that, whatever it is.
Well, we have so much electronic interference in the skies right now that God only knows what it's doing to our brain. I'll leave it at that.
Well, it's also impacting our advanced weaponry in Ukraine right now. Because the Russian electronic countermeasures are becoming so effective that our stuff just isn't. And there's other crazy, I think the Ukrainians just took out a second early warning nuclear missile system in Russia, which is whoever greenlit that in the U.S. government, because the Russians have basically responded by sending 11 nuclear submarines into the Atlantic Ocean armed with SLB.
That shouldn't worry you. Don't worry about that, Sean. They can only destroy a continent. Don't worry about it.
But it's just reckless. It's just reckless. So there's a lot of that stuff that's
ridiculous
happening right now. Because I guarantee the first one, maybe the Ukrainians kind of, got a little excited, but we would have, a responsible person would have said, if you do that again, you're not getting any more money. Because Russia is flying blind right now with their nukes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if we were flying blind, we would be on our finger would be on the trigger. We'd be twitching.
Right.
So
I mean,
I don't know.
Is global thermonuclear war, is this really worth one Donbass region? I'm just asking.
No.
I'm opining out loud. We have congressmen who get off the train at the Amtrak station in D.C., walk over drug addicts in homelessness, crapping and peeing on themselves, totally helpless. We are supposed, I'm not being a few good men here. We are here, folks, the richest country in the history of the world. We are here to help people like that, not step over them and give $100 billion to Ukraine to protect a region. Oh, Russia's going to conquer Europe. I mean, oh God, please. They don't have enough tanks to fight a regional battle in one country. They're going to take over. Come on. Stop the bullshit. Please.
2 years ago,
God almighty.
2 years ago, I would have agreed with you. Now they've had 2 years to learn how to adapt to drone warfare.
Okay.
Look, I'm not saying if we're not there, if we don't look, I'm not trying to justify what we're doing with Ukraine. I think it's, and I don't think Putin's going to do that. But if Putin wanted to do that, our military would have if you're familiar with World War II, a Kasserine Pass moment.
Yes,
we lose a lot of people because we don't have.
I know exactly what about that pass that you're talking about. It was just on TV. You're right.
And the reason is
nonetheless, we possess strategic battlefield nuclear weapons. We have, I don't know. It just, to me, and you're talking to a guy that was thinking about running for president of the United States for the Libertarian Party. To me, the people of America are worth more than a region in Ukraine. You might call that short-sighted. You might call that geopolitically naive, and I think I'm a great geopolitical strategist. I'm a Nixonian politician, but I can't wrap my head around it. And the fact that Russia amassed troops on the border for 9 months, I think something could have been tacitly resolved. Maybe not. What are we looking at? We're probably looking at complete destruction in Ukraine. I don't know. You probably know more than me, but it's not looking good. I mean, we're down to the breeding age.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. By the time we reach the election, the Russian military will have broken through. They will be on the banks of the Dnipro River. My last count, they have 500,000 people on one side, and they've massed about 300,000 people in the north. And I think what the game plan is, if I were Putin, just a race to Kyiv, surround Kyiv, and come to the table before the election is resolved.
Right.
Because I think, and again, this is not a political comment, I think Biden's more predictable from their standpoint.
Correct.
Where I think Trump is more of a wild man. And again, this is not judgment. I'm just talking about through the perspective of Putin. He's looking at it and be like, I kind of know what Biden's going to do. It's going to kind of be more of the same. With Trump, I have no idea what this guy's going to do. Right. No clue. And he maybe expects more of a favorable détente with Trump. Again, no shade on either side. I'm not wading into politics. I'm just saying that's kind of what Putin's political calculus is likely to be. But anyway, it's just been very frustrating because the moment he crossed into Ukraine, we should have been rebuilding and restocking in terms of manufacturing capability and all that stuff. And we're not there. So if we get into a conventional fight in Europe, we're going to have to resort to the draft. And good luck with that, because you just alienated everybody on the right by calling, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah,
and which is traditionally the place where you recruit the legions from. And none of us are offering up our children for the altar of the global elite. It's just not going to happen.
Nope. It's not going to happen.
So it's not going to be like Vietnam, where the left was broadly against it and people on the right were like, yes, sir, we're
going to fight those pinko commies. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to get resistance from both sides on that. And it's not going to be,
Agreed.
It's not going to be pretty. Yep. So I hope we try to come to the table and resolve this thing.
Right.
Because it's getting to the point where it's stupid. I mean, it's just dumb.
It's dumb.
I don't know why we're talking about this, but get into this, John. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen?
Can you see the guy at the NSA giving the report? He's talking to this guy that was in military intelligence. He was going to run for president. He must be stopped. I'm not running for president, folks.
By the way,
all those listening, I want to go play golf and go walleye fishing in Wisconsin. Don't worry. You have no worries with Jon Stewart.
Like many of us can tell when if you're smart enough, you can figure out if you're like a particular YouTube video has been observed by them, right?
No, I don't. You'll have to email me how to do that.
I'll just tell. It's pretty easy, right? If somebody says like a certain keyword or phrase, there's a chart on YouTube. It's called percent engagement. So it shows over time how much what percentage of your audience is still remaining. So I had one video once where it was somebody who was employed by MI6 and MI5 during his career. It was like 30 years. And he was, you don't have to believe this or not, but he was a precognitive dreamer. So he would predict terrorist attacks and things like that. But there's one thing he said, and I'm not going to repeat it here because I don't want to see the same spike, is the thing was just kind of slow decline like it always is as people fall off. And suddenly there's this massive spike at 100%. And I'm like, what's that? So I go and listen to it again, and I missed it in the interview. And he basically said that, at least in Britain, that you could vote on somebody else's behalf. Way back when. But I didn't catch it. And thank God I didn't, because I didn't pursue it or anything else. And I'm not going to say what implications that may or may not have for the United States 30 years later. I'm not saying anything. I'm just putting that out there. But anyway, there was a spike there. And I wouldn't have even noticed he said it if I hadn't seen that spike. So in other words, it triggered some signal somewhere, and bunch of people, well, we need to review this and see what this is. And they all kind of coalesced on that timestamp and big spike. So anyway, I just want to see America do well. And as
do I. Yeah.
And the people kind of at the top now they just don't get it. They don't get it. Yeah. So,
and I may notice that if I'm doing anything that would, I've said this before and I'll say it for the 50th time, Sean. If I ever get a knock on the door and it's two people with badges introducing themselves, showing their credentials, asking me, could you not talk about blah, 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 because it's going to affect blah, 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 I'm gone. I'm done. No problem.
Especially if it's going to harm
I never
somebody.
Want anything. Right. I never want anything to harm someone, affect any kind of security, any kind of intelligence plans or whatever. I don't want to be the monkey wrench in the wheel. So, and I've said that many, multiple times. I don't think I have been, but just want to get that across, that I'm not out here to be an interloper or a disruptor. If anything, I view myself as someone that's helping the government come out of the closet to the alien phenomenon. That's it.
So do you get a sense for the 5 people that have been kind of helping you along?
Yes.
What do you think their motivations are?
I think they saw a guy that was open, receptive, that they could possibly trust. I think they saw, and I'm going to be self-effacing here, kind of a useful idiot, pro wrestler, car dealer, politician. Wow. All I got to add to that is lawyer, and I'm the most discredited person.
Well, you got reach. You got reach.
Yeah, I know that. And so I think that here's a guy that's got reach, that is a useful idiot, that could be discredited if he gets out of control. Let's see if we could give him some stuff, give him some information. As the one intel person famously wrote to me, to give your investigation a nudge. That was interesting. And I think that's it. I think Americans who love this country and were open to, one by one, it was one person, then a second one came forward, then a third. And I think they saw that I would play ball, meaning keep my mouth shut when told not to say things and very respectful, and I am very respectful in my emails. I'm very respectful about our government. I've never chastised and, waved my fist in the government this and the government. That's not me. And it's not what I believe. So I think the 5 intelligence people that helped me were receptive to that and appreciated it, in my opinion.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you another question, and I'm going to try to do it very carefully because I want to be able to protect you and your sources. Okay, so, feel free to say no.
So ask your question.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to tell you kind of the context so that you can understand why I'm asking something like this. So, and trying to understand if there's like deliberate factionalism between different types of agencies. So, for instance, from the outside, it looks like the CIA and the Navy are pushing a little more for disclosure, but the Air Force is solidly in the camp of keeping it closed. So I think probably a smarter way to ask this is, of your intelligence contacts, are any of them not in any one of those particular groups? In other words, they're like not Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. None of them are with CIA or Navy.
Okay. All right,
and I can only tell you what 3 of them, when one person says something, when a second person says something, you're like, When a third person, whom they don't, I believe, know each other, reiterates. And what 3 of them said was, quote, there are at least 6 people, current or past, with the DIA who runs the Alien Interrogation Retention Program, or did, and is still running the program as it speaks, DIA. There are 6 men, past and present, who are really pressing hard for disclosure of some sort. So, and then a person I don't count as one of my leakers, a person at the Pentagon who is friends with someone on my investigation team, told him to tell me that 2 things. It's very interesting. That it's about 50-50 in the Pentagon who wants disclosure, who doesn't. A bloodless civil war is happening in the Pentagon. And number 2, that colonel told my investigator to tell me that he is like them who aren't in the know at the Pentagon. It's like they're running a retail store. But down this hallway, there's a long hallway and a door. We're told we can't knock on the door. We can't look through the door. We can't open the door. We can't ask about the trucks going in and out of the back of this building. We just have to keep the retail operation going. And we can never ask any questions about what's going on behind that door. And that was his metaphor to me through my investigator of what the men and women who are not read into these programs are facing at the Pentagon. I think it was a very interesting metaphor, and I get it. We know what's going on. We can't ask any questions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that was said to tell me, tell him this. So, pretty interesting.
Do you have insight on how this might shake out in terms of...
I don't. I am assuming it's going to go one of 3 ways. One, it's going to continue. The obfuscation is going to continue with dribbles and drabs and a really interesting video. I think that's the most, unfortunately, folks, hate to burst your bubble. I think that's the most practical thing that's going to happen. Number 2, somebody from a foreign country near their death or pissed off is going to leak something that's catastrophic, that's undeniable. And I think that would be a very non-CGI video of something landing, a ramp coming down, something coming out, very close range, something to that effect. Or 3, the government does a ham-handed, haphazard disclosure of, yes, we have objects in the sky we don't know about or that are from different galaxies. They may show a picture of a being, and I don't think anybody will give a shit, to be honest with you.
I don't think anybody will believe them. I think the longer we...
So those are the 3 scenarios. And I think A is the most likely, unfortunately.
Okay, just continued cover up basically is A.
Yes. Yeah. Because the government is never going to step forward and tell you for a fact we are not in control of our skies, of the future. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And if they know of some catastrophe or if they know something else, they're going to have their escape plan way in place before we know anything. And I do believe that who we are in contact with is calling the shots of when to do disclosure and not, if it does come. I do believe that.
When you
and I will say,
who we're in contact with, who do you mean?
Well, let me say this. The beans are calling the shot. And why they haven't demanded disclosure, and I say this poetically, when they see someone bashing someone else over the head for a $10 toaster at Target on Black Friday, I think the beans realize we're not really ready for disclosure. And I'm joking, and I'm being serious at the same time.
Yeah, I think it feels to me like there's some sort of selective disclosure going on right now by these entities, whatever they are. I don't even know where they come from, but
right.
People who start to spend time in this topic, weird things start to happen, and not like weird government things. Like like something unplugs your Apple TV when you go outside. Like that happened to me. And I can't explain it. I don't know what it was, but everything that has happened to me has been plausibly deniable. Like there could easily be except that's the only thing that's happened to me where I'm like, that was just impossible. There's no way that could have happened. But there's plenty of other weird things too. People start to have dreams, precognitive dreams that happen and weird stuff like that. But I think that's also a human thing. I think, anyway, I don't want to get too esoteric on you.
But your subconscious is bizarre. So don't try and understand it.
There's another element of this too that I think complicates it for the powers that be. That like, if people come out and say it, just they'll seem crazy, right? So and some of them might be crazy. Let's not rule out that possibility either.
Right, of course.
So, any final words, my friend? I've had you on for a long time, so I know you.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for all of your viewers for opening up a time in their busy lives to listen to me and to the whole Victor investigation. I would just simply tell people, keep your eyes and ears open. Never give up faith and hope. And, as a community, I think it's safe to say we need to be a little kinder to each other, a little more gentle to each other, more supportive.
Yeah. There's no reason to be upset. Like, we're just trying to get to the truth.
That's it.
Just because I don't agree with you, I might be wrong.
The government, I think, is laughing their ass off at the community because we're destroying ourselves. And so when somebody said, is the government interfering? I'm like, they really don't have to. We're screwing up each other is plenty enough for the government not having interfered.
All they need to do is just a little nudge here, a nudge there. That's it. Yeah.
Yep. So,
some
just support each other. That's all I ask.
Throw some bots on Reddit and have them upvote the disinformation. But, there's a little bit of that too. But the Russians do that. The Chinese do that.
Of course.
Everybody does that. So.
But thank you for having me on, Sean. It's been a pleasure. You've asked great questions, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. And thanks for continuing to push this and sharing your perspective. So.
You bet. Thank you, sir.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of a expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's two options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site. And there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much and keep watching. I really appreciate it.